Nobody lives in North Dakota for the same reason nobody hangs out in the freezer section longer than necessary. It's not that it's the worst place in America, it's just most people like options, convenience, and weather that doesn't feel like it has a vendetta against you. Now, I'm not saying North Dakota is some lawless wasteland. It's quiet, it's clean, and a lot of places it's very peaceful. The problem is, peaceful can turn into painfully uneventful really fast, and a lot of Americans want more than North Dakota has to offer. We're talking about a state that's ranked 47th in population, but 19th in size, and there's only 10.7 people per square mile here. It's sparsely populated at best. Today, we're going to take a look and see why. Number 10, it got a slow start. Like a lot of other states in this region, Wyoming, Montana, and even all the way up to Alaska, when you get a slow start with the population, it takes generations to catch back up if you ever do. North Dakota has never really caught up. Back in the mid-1800s, when everyone was pushing west, North Dakota got overlooked for a variety of reasons, but one of the biggest ones was the environment. This is a harsh environment. Farming and ranching technologies of the time were not up for this kind of environment, so people just bypassed the land. They just kept heading west. For the few hardy folks that did stay behind, they built a nice state here, but a majority of the people kept pushing west. To give you an example, the first census was in 1870. The second one was in 1880, obviously, and at that time, North Dakota had 36,909 residents. Montana, its neighbor to the west at the time, had 39,000. Now that's kind of low because Montana sort of has the same environment except they have mountains to the west. Then you look at South Dakota, which is just below them, and in 1880 they had 98,000 residents. If you go to the east, they had Minnesota. Minnesota at that time had 780,000 residents. Sure, they have cold winters, but they had far more water and more fertile land. So that slow start has plagued North Dakota since it started. Number 9, the growing season has trust issues. Now this one's kind of part of number 10, but it's its own thing. Agriculture here is a huge part of life, but even the land itself seems unpredictable in North Dakota. The growing season in North Dakota is short, not slightly inconvenient short, more like blink and you miss the whole planting season. You've got a narrow window where everything needs to happen, and if the weather decides to act up, that window gets even tighter. Now in the early days, keep in mind, we didn't have a bunch of grocery stores everywhere where you can just get whatever you want. They grew and they raised what they ate. And if you had a bad season with the weather, you had less to eat and you packed up and pushed west. Even to this day, there's a quiet tension in farming communities, like everyone's waiting to see if the season will cooperate or pull something weird. It's not impossible. People make it work. They've just been doing it for generations. But it's not forgiving either. You don't just plant and hope for the best. You plan, you adjust, you watch the sky like it owes you an answer. And sometimes, even then, it doesn't go your way. We have the technology to overcome a lot of the hurdles that North Dakota throws at them, but even to this day, you can't technology your way out of a short season. Number 8, a giant sucking void for entertainment. If you're coming from a big city, this is where things start to feel a little different in a hurry. Entertainment in North Dakota exists, it's just not endless. And believe it or not, to a lot of people, that's why they won't move to North Dakota, or when they do move there for a job, they move back when the job is over. In North Dakota, even in their biggest city of Fargo, there's not a lot of things to do. You're not bouncing between 10 different places on a Friday night. There isn't a new restaurant opening every week, and nobody's handing you a list of things to do that requires scrolling. Instead, it's more community-driven. High school sports are a big deal, local events matter, county fairs aren't some novelty, they're actually part of the social calendar. And if there's a place everyone seems to like, that is the place. That's where everyone goes. For some people, that feels grounded, familiar, like life got simpler. For others, it feels like someone quietly reduced their options without asking. Now, if you're over 50, you're thinking, well, that's not a big deal at all. But think back. Go way back to the 1990s, the 80s, maybe even the late 70s. Remember how you like to go places? You like to see different people? In most of North Dakota, if you do go out, you're gonna see the same people. Most of this state is small towns. Fargo is the biggest city, and it's really not that big. It's got a population of about 125,000. That's it. Bismarck has under 73,000, Grand Forks has under 60,000, and everything else is below 50,000 or well below 50,000. Number 7, population density. Now this is sort of the basis for this whole list, but it needs to be highlighted here. North Dakota doesn't just have a small population. It spreads that population out like it's trying to set records. You can drive for a while and not see much. Not in a creepy way, just very open, very quiet kind of way. It's space at its purest form. And that space can feel amazing at first. No traffic, no crowds, no waiting. Just you, the road, and whatever you're thinking about. For me, when I'm on a road trip like that, I always think the same thing. Hippos are bigger than I expected them to be. After a while, that same space, though, can start to feel like distance. Distance from people, from things to do, from anything spontaneous. When your nearest grocery store isn't 5 minutes away, you don't run out real quick. You plan, you make a list, and you commit to the trip because it's probably going to take all day, or at least most of it. Sure, if you're living in one of these cities like Fargo or Bismarck, it's not as big of a deal, but that's a small portion of the state. Now, some people love that independence. Others start realizing they miss being close to things and people. So for a lot of people that are looking to escape to this type of state, they're going to bypass North Dakota and end up in Montana, Wyoming, or Idaho, maybe even Colorado. And that has stunted their growth. Number 6, the stereotype. Now, North Dakota has this thing, this stereotype, this vibe that most people that don't know about the state, they just kind of feel this way about the state. It's flat, it's cold, it's a little too rugged, it's empty, which is true, which is kind of the problem here. It's all just rural life and farming. So that does a lot of damage to its population growth. People just think that, they never research it because they think they have all the information they need for North Dakota. North Dakota isn't one of these northern rugged states that has towns like Jackson, Wyoming, Bozeman, Montana, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Even less rugged, but still that outdoorsy thing, Boulder, Colorado. So since people never hear about these really cool cities in the state, people just assume that's what's going on here. That it's just flat, empty, and just a bunch of farmers. To be honest, prior to doing this, that's the feeling I always got from North Dakota. I'd been through there on the train several times, I'd driven through there when I was a kid, and I'd visited Fargo a few times. And that's exactly what I thought about the state. What people don't know about the state is that it's not that bad. It's not falling apart, it's not dangerous, it's not insanely busy. If anything, it's almost too well put together. But people don't know that because they've already dismissed it, because it's not the type of state that you could decide randomly you want tacos at 10:47 p.m. and get them. Number 5, not a job magnet. There was a moment not too far back when North Dakota looked like it was about to explode economically. They had an oil boom. It hit hard. Jobs were everywhere, and people started paying attention. For a while, it worked. Then things cooled off. Now the economy's steady, but it's not pulling people in from all over the country like it did when the oil was flowing. Not many of the people stayed behind when all those jobs dried up. Most of the people in North Dakota these days didn't show up randomly. They're here because they built something over time, a job, a business, or a life that fits the environment. If it wasn't that, they were probably born and raised here. So it's definitely not a state that if you're starting from scratch or trying to, I don't know, get a fresh start, the options feel limited. Not non-existent, just narrower than most people are used to. If you're looking for a fresh start, you just stay east in Minnesota or Wisconsin. Number 4, it's flat, like suspiciously flat. Believe it or not, some people like a little variety of their landscape. North Dakota has very little. They've got wide open prairie and water. They have long stretches of land that don't change much as you move through them. The horizon sits out there like it's been copy and pasted for miles. I'm one of those people. I hate flat land. I hate it. Cannot stand it. I need to see mountains someplace. It lets me know where I am. It's weird. There's a lot of people like me, believe it or not. If you're looking for flat land for farming, you're just going to head down to Kansas, Nebraska, or Iowa. Sure, it gets cold down there also, but not nearly as bad as North Dakota. You're going to have a little more growing season and a little more sunshine. The wide open flat prairies of North Dakota can be found elsewhere without as many negatives. Now, I'm not saying there's not something peaceful about that. The sunsets hit differently when there's nothing blocking your view, and I understand that. The sky feels bigger, everything feels quieter. But a lot of people don't want that, so they bypass North Dakota when they're looking for a place to live. Number 3, the wind has personal issues. If you've never heard about North Dakota's wind, you've probably paid too much attention to Wyoming. I think Wyoming's a little bit worse. North Dakota's right up there with it though. The wind in North Dakota isn't just part of the weather, it's part of the experience. It doesn't show up gently. It moves across the plains with a purpose. You hear it before you feel it. And then suddenly you're dealing with it whether you plan to or not. And when it's cold, that wind doesn't just make things uncomfortable, it changes the equation entirely. A normal winter day somewhere else becomes something sharper here. Something that makes you think twice before stepping outside without being prepared for this. You don't casually deal with the wind in North Dakota, you adjust your entire routine around it. Now, this isn't one of those things that stops people from moving there. It is one of those things that make people not stay. Number 2, it's far from everything. Look at a map and North Dakota kind of tells you its story right away. It's up there. Not bothering anyone, not trying to be the center of attention. It's actually not the center of anything, and that means everything else is far away. Big cities, far. Major attractions, far. Even things that would be considered nearby in other states can turn into a decent drive. You don't just decide to take a quick trip somewhere interesting. It becomes a plan, a commitment, something you set aside time for. Here's a small example. Fargo is on the east side of North Dakota. It's also their largest city. The nearest amusement park is something called Valley Fair. Valley Fair is almost 4 hours away. Nearest professional sports, about the same drive. That may not bother you, but it bothers a lot of people, and that's just 2 examples. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to North Dakota or anywhere in the United States, there's a link for a website called Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, the winter. And this is where everything comes together. Winter in North Dakota isn't something that passes through. It settles in. It stays there, making every day a little more miserable. Winter shows up early compared to most states because it's so north. It stays late and it makes sure you know that it's there the entire time. Temperatures drop hard. Wind chill turns simple tasks into something that you have to think about. Now, this is the statewide average. It changes a little bit depending on what region you're in. Typically, January temperatures range from 2 degrees Fahrenheit to 17 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 17 Celsius to minus 8 Celsius. North Dakota averages 50 sub-zero days a year. Their all-time record low was minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 51 degrees Celsius, and that was recorded in 1936. Winter doesn't play around in North Dakota, and that's part of the reason nobody wants to live there now, and even more so back in the day. Here's the average high for the 3 months of winter, December, January, February, the main months. 27 degrees Fahrenheit is the average high in December, 24 in January, 29 in February. The cold season typically lasts about 3.5 months, generally from late November through early March. However, snow and freezing temperatures can occur as early as September and as late as May. So this is one of the main reasons during the early days people just kept pushing west, because winters in North Dakota were just too extreme. When you start adding all those things up together that were in play back then, like the isolation, the rough terrain, the long cold winters, that sent people packing. They might stay for a season or 2, and then they just start pushing west, heading to Oregon, heading to Colorado, heading to Idaho, Washington, where it was easier to survive. And this state has been playing catch up ever since. The strange thing is, they really don't promote themselves. They're not trying to bring in amusement parks or giant corporations. They're not trying to turn Fargo into the next super metro area. The people in North Dakota are fine the way it is. They don't mind a few people filtering in and becoming members of their communities. They just don't want to turn it into something it was never supposed to be. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day. Be nice to each other.